All right, let's dive right in. Today we're taking a closer look at the world's second largest religion, Islam. Now, it's a faith you hear about all the time, but what are the core beliefs? What are the actual practices? Well, that's what we're here to find out.
First things first, let's just talk about scale for a second. We're talking about 2 billion Muslims around the world. 2 billion. That's almost a quarter of every single person on Earth. So right away, this isn't just some regional faith. It is truly a global one.
But, a number like that, as huge as it is, doesn't really tell you the whole story. What's the spiritual heart of Islam? Well, everything revolves around this one core concept, submission to God. So our whole journey today is really about understanding what that idea actually means.
Okay, so to really get it, let's start at the very beginning, with the meaning of the words that give the faith its name and its identity.
So you hear the word Islam all the time, right? Well, it comes from the Arabic root salama, and that little root has this beautiful dual meaning of both peace and submission. So when you put it all together, the spiritual meaning of Islam is basically to find peace by submitting to the will of God. And from there, it's pretty simple. A Muslim is just anyone who does that, one who submits to God's will.
All right, now this is a big one, a really common point of confusion, the word Allah. Many people think it's the name of a different god, but that's not it at all. Allah is simply the Arabic word for the one and only true God. In fact, if you were to pick up a Bible that's written in Arabic, you'd see the word Allah used for God right there. It's the exact same term that Arabic-speaking Christians and Jews use. It really highlights that shared monotheistic root.
Okay, so we've got the basic terms down. Now let's see how they build into the core theological beliefs that every single Muslim holds. This is really the foundation of their entire worldview.
So at the very heart of Islam, you've got these 6 articles of faith. Think of them as the non-negotiables. A Muslim believes in 1. Absolute God, in angels who act as messengers, in the holy books that God has revealed, in a whole line of prophets, in a final day of judgment for everyone, and in divine predestination, the idea that God knows and has decreed everything that happens.
Now, this is where things get super interesting, and it's another point that people often miss. Islam doesn't see itself as some brand new religion that just appeared out of nowhere. Not at all. It's seen as the final piece of the puzzle, the culmination of God's message that was delivered through a long line of prophets that are, pretty central to Judaism and Christianity. We're talking Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, even Jesus. And for Muslims, Muhammad is the final prophet in that line.
And you can see this idea reflected right in the Quran, which is Islam's holy book. This verse makes it super clear. It tells Muslims to believe in all of God's prophets, without picking and choosing or making distinctions between them.
So if those 6 articles are what a Muslim believes, then how does that belief translate into, actual action? How does it show up in everyday life? Well, that's where the 5 pillars come in. These 5 things are basically the framework for a Muslim's life. They're the essential, obligatory practices. You've got the declaration of faith, the 5 daily prayers, giving to charity, fasting during the month of Ramadan, and for those who are physically and financially able, making a pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca once in their lifetime.
The first pillar, the Shahada, is really the foundation of everything. It's the entry point, the core declaration. It's the simple but profound statement. There is no deity but God, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. Just by saying these words with real conviction, a person officially enters the faith.
And that third pillar is zakat, which is all about charitable giving. It's not just a friendly suggestion. It's considered an annual obligation for Muslims who have the financial means. They're required to give 2.5% of their savings and wealth to those who need it. It's seen as a way to purify your own wealth and to take care of the community.
Okay, so from those personal beliefs and practices, let's zoom way out and look at the global community of Muslims, which is known as the Ummah. And I'm telling you, its diversity is probably going to surprise you.
So, quick pop quiz. If you had to guess, where do most of the world's 2 billion Muslims live? A lot of people's minds would probably jump straight to the Middle East, right? Or maybe North Africa? Well, let's check the actual data.
Wow, okay, so this chart tells a really different story. Get this, the biggest slice of the pie, 31%, is actually in South Asia, countries like Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. The entire Middle East and North Africa region only accounts for about 20%. And the single country with the most Muslims? Indonesia, way over in Southeast Asia.
And all of that data, that global distribution, it leads us to this one absolutely huge number.
Over 80%.
The bottom line is, the overwhelming majority of Muslims in the world are not Arabs. The idea that Islam is basically an Arab religion is probably one of the biggest, most persistent misconceptions out there.
And just like the Muslim world is super diverse ethnically, it's also diverse when it comes to different branches of belief. There are different schools of thought, and they all trace their origins back to this one single historical disagreement, right at the very beginning.
The two biggest groups you'll hear about are Sunni and Shia Islam. And as you can see, the Sunnis make up the vast majority of Muslims worldwide. We're talking somewhere around 85 to 90%. Shia Muslims make up about 10 to 15%.
So what was the big split all about? Well, it wasn't actually about core theology, not at first. It was about politics. It was all about who should lead the community after the Prophet Muhammad passed away. One group, who would eventually become the Sunnis, believed the community should choose the next leader, and they picked his close friend Abu Bakr. But the other group, who became the Shia, believed that leadership was destined to stay within the Prophet's family, and they backed his cousin and son-in-law, Ali. And that one single disagreement over succession, that's the primary origin of the two main branches we see today.
All right, so let's do a super quick wrap-up. We've learned that the word Islam itself means achieving peace through submission to God. We've seen that it shares a deep prophetic history with Judaism and Christianity. We know that a Muslim's faith is put into action through the 5 pillars. And finally, we've seen that the global Muslim community is incredibly diverse, with the vast majority being non-Arabs.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Islam is the fastest-growing major religion on the planet. So really, the question for all of us isn't if it will continue to shape our shared future, but how. Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.